Welcome to those of you on Facebook Live and YouTube to the Home Spiritual Center Sunday service for August 27th, 2023. And those of you in the chapel, you see how cramped the library is with books? We would like to relocate as many of those books as possible to good homes. So won't you take a few home today? No cost.
No, everybody's required to take 6 books.
There is a donation button there.
All right. Our opening prayer. Where is our safe space, God? I see. When we seek safety, it is in your presence that provides the strength and protection that we seek. So, a good morning to all on this beautiful summer day, from my safe space to yours. As we prepare to hear this morning's guest speaker's message, know he will be planting seeds, and thank God for the marvelous creation that is us, because we are fertile soil for spiritual seeds to germinate in. May we all have an infinitely splendid week, and may all the seeds planted today flower forth into love for our world, in thought and in prayer, and a special love for the Home Spiritual Center to all our spiritual brothers and sisters around the world. In love and light, amen. Where's my music person?
No, not at all.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I have a treat for you today. We are going to sing a song called Sing Through Your Voice. It is by Beautiful Chorus, and it's all about your self-expression and singing with your voice. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to sing it 2 times, then I'm going to break down the words, and then I'll have you guys kind of join in with me just to kind of get everybody on the same page. So the words, song's going to go, sing through my voice, play through my hands, let the way be open. I'll sing it again. Sing through my voice, play through my hands, let the way be open. All right, so the words, first set of words is sing through my voice. I'm going to sing it in. You guys repeat after me. Sing through my voice.
Sing through my voice.
Play through my hands.
Play through my hands.
Let the way be open.
Let the way be open.
And we're just going to keep it going. Sing through my voice. Play through my hands. Let the way be open. Sing through my voice. Play with my hands. Let the way be open. Again. Sing through my voice. Play through my hands. Let the way be open. Now bring it down. Sing through my play through my hands. Let the way be open. Do that 3 more times. Sing through my voice, play through my hands. Let the way be open. 2 more times and loudly. Sing through my voice, play through my hands. Let the way be open. One more time with all your heart. Sing through my voice, play through my hands. Let the way be open.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So if you like that, there's a whole lot more of that on the second Saturday evenings at 7 o'clock in the other building. Or 6:30. Shoot.
6:30.
Check the calendar. Oh, I guess I can check the calendar. 6:30. All right. So, I feel all jazzed now. That was great. So today we have a guest speaker. First time for Jerry Braza to actually be here with us, and I'm so excited. He's written 4 books. This is the one he just wrote and just came out. It's a beautiful book, Practicing Mindfulness. I've been reading it, and he's done a beautiful job with this one. So Jerry Braza's PhD. He's been leading voice in the field of health, psychology, and mindfulness for more than 35 years. Didn't know you were that old, buddy. A professor emeritus from Western Oregon University, and Jerry's worked with thousands of students and led hundreds of seminars, workshops, and retreats focused on developing health and wellness through applied mindfulness practices. His experience includes work with hospitals, mental and behavioral health groups, nonprofit organizations, and he's been ordained as a Buddhist Dharma teacher by Zen master Thich Nhat and teaches meditation and mindfulness. So, yeah, I'm very privileged to be able to call him friend. Him and his wife Kathleen both are dear friends of mine, and they're here locally. We're just so blessed to have him here in our backyard, so to speak. So, or in town. Doesn't have to travel afar. So anyway, and there was a saying on your website that I just loved, and I wanted to say it here because it is how I feel when I hear you talk and I read your book. And I knew after only a few pages of Jerry Braza's book that I was being led into a world of spiritual gardening. Isn't that beautiful? And that's exactly how it feels to listen to you and to read your information. So help me welcome Jerry. There you go.
Thank you, Mitch.
You're welcome.
Call it the bell of mindfulness, a reminder to come back to the present moment. Thank you, Madge. It's an honor to be here this morning. I open every talk by honoring my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. In Vietnamese, teacher means Thai, so I'll say Thay, Thai. I'll say his name instead of taking the longer version. So I say, Dear Ty. And then I honor other local teachers, such as Jay Smith, Joe Pinecoffer. All of these people are deceased. And I will talk more about that later, because you are their continuation. My comments are based on over 35 years of having the honor to study with and travel to Vietnam, China, France, India, and other places where Thich Nhat Hanh gave retreats. And I will share 3 significant encounters with him as I go through my presentation that transformed my life. You know, we're all here because somebody touched you yourself. Somebody touched you at a very deep level, and you are just continuing that touch, that inspiration that they offered to you. But first, I have to share an interesting story. I think it's humorous. I go to a local supermarket, and one of the men there working is Vietnamese. And so every time I talk to him, and I said this a couple of years ago, before Ty had died in 2022, I said, you know, the top 3 spiritual teachers in the world are the Dalai Lama, the Pope, and Thich Nhat Hanh. And so he knew of Thich Nhat Hanh, of course, from Vietnam days. And he said, I have to tell you a funny story. He said, when I was in Portland listening to the Dalai Lama, I went to the bathroom and he was right in the urinal right next to me. I said, well, that's interesting. I said, well, I have a true story. When I was in China and we had to eliminate at the top of the hill when the bus was stuck, the men went to one side, and the women went to the other side. And sure enough, next to me was Thich Nhat Hanh. And then he said something. He says, well, all we have to do is look out for the Pope. So I thought that was quite interesting. Thich Nhat Hanh always said one very important thing to all of us as students and to the world. And he called it realizations. And I would like to share 8 realizations of Thich Nhat Hanh, or Thai. He said, it's more important to realize than to declare. You know, all our lives we say, well, I'm a member of the Home Center and I declare their philosophy. Yet, do you realize this philosophy? Do you realize the philosophy of any religion or anything that you have studied in the past? I've declared a lot, yet not always realized it. And so I'm on a journey to continue realizing these ideas in my life. The first realization is mindfulness. This is one word that changed my life. In the 80s, and before that, I had the opportunity to study with Ram Dass and other teachers like that, Stephen Levine and other Buddhist teachers, Jack Kornfield, and some of these people are still around. And I, one day, read a book called The Miracle of Mindfulness. It was a simple little book that Ty had written that woke me up to the idea of living in the present moment. That's as simple as it is. And I started to read this and started to realize it was a formula for my life, because at that time I was a hyper university professor, trying to make a living, trying to support a family, going through difficult times. Yet I didn't really get messages any other place that was so powerful as this word mindfulness. Because as you know, our worries are all about the future, and all anxieties about the future and worries about the past. And so I started to practice that way. What would it be like if I was living each moment, present with people, being there for others, being present with the flowers, beautiful flowers. This beautiful flower, thank you. Who brought this beautiful flower? Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much. These are all over Plum Village in France this time of the year. I saw some on the road going to the Trappist Abbey yesterday. The beautiful sunflowers, the fields are filled with these. And they are just a beautiful reminder. So I'm going to keep this up here because that reminds me of my days at Plum Village where Thich Nhat Hanh resided. Point I want to make is that this mindfulness is a miracle. And I read about it, but again, I didn't realize it. And my first encounter with Thich Nhat Hanh was at a retreat at the Omega Center in New York. Maybe you've heard of it. And this Omega Center is a spiritual center. They have all kinds of teachers. And I happened to be sitting by the window, and maybe 500 people were in the Dharma hall waiting for him to arrive. And I looked outside and I saw this beautiful man walking very mindfully, very step by step, walking very mindfully, not in a hurry. And it took him another 5 minutes to get from the front Lancaster to here, to his spot where he was going to give his talk. And I said, that's my teacher. That's it. I want what he teaches. That was my first significant encounter. Mindfulness essentially means to remember. To remember, where am I? I'm here. I have this one beautiful opportunity to share with you some insights that have changed my life, that have changed your life for millions of people. And I believe you already know these insights because you can't help but go to a beautiful center like here and not hear about mindfulness or about the present moment or the preciousness of life. I first started to learn not about the word directly, but how powerful this word is when I had the opportunity to study with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, as did my wife, Kathleen, who spent her life in the grief world. And Kathleen actually presented with her on stage at conferences as a grief counselor. But what she said was very important. At the end of our life, what we remember is not about how hard we had worked, but we remember moments in our life. Moments in our life. And that, to me, is what mindfulness is about, moments. And these moments, then, are what we need to continue to create in our life. I'll give you an example. Currently, my wife, Kathleen, is suffering from Alzheimer's. And so what we look at each day is when she worries about what's going to happen. And I say, darling, all we can do is worry about today. How can we make today special? How can we make today beautiful? That is a bell of mindfulness, that phone. And so whatever happens in our life, it's a reminder to come back to our breath, to take a moment and just experience life in the present moment. And so we know, and also I had the opportunity to study with people like Carl Rogers. And the gift that Carl Rogers offered was this notion of being present. He was a very good therapist. And all he would do is be present with others so that they could be heard. How many times are we with somebody and not really there? And that's a good reminder for me. and all of us. The second realization, so the first realization of Thich is he lived a mindful life. He challenged us all as students to live that kind of same life. The second realization is seeds. Now, Brother Dick here, he talked about seeds this morning. And I think that is a very important message for all of us. Just think of what conditions made this beautiful sunflower happen. All the seeds that were watered, including the compost. No mud, no lotus. A beautiful saying in this tradition of ours. We need mud, we need compost, we need manure. When I was a young boy, my mother was the first organic gardener, and we had a car, and I had to go to the chicken farm with her, and I was holding 2 baskets of chicken manure in the back seat so my mother could put it in the garden. She had a beautiful garden. So you need a little, to make it happen. Now, mindfulness became more than just that theory. It became cognitive-based therapy. It's the basis of it. It became selective behavioral therapy and other forms of therapy. And it also was a part of seeds being watered in those different therapies. What we share with others, what we nurture is what we become. So my second encounter with Thich Nhat Hanh was being ordained as a Dharma teacher. And in that ordination, he said, water the seeds of love. It was a direct message, water the seeds of love. So it's taken me a lifetime to learn what are those seeds. What are the seeds of love? Well, simply compassion, joy, peace, all the qualities that you attempt to aspire in your own life because of being here. And so that was significant for me because I continue to understand what are the seeds. How may I best, a calligraphy from Thich Nhat Hanh, we have it in our room, in our home. It says, how may I best love you? So love is something that we need to learn to do, but it's not just saying the word, it's being active. Love is a verb. Love is made up of many seeds that help us to continue. Now, I had a third encounter related to that. I was at a retreat. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning in Deer Park Monastery, and I saw, the only time I ever saw him, I was sitting by a pond, and I saw this teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, walk by. And I was sitting there looking at a manuscript for a book that I had written called The Seeds of Love. And I had a 1-page summary of it. And so I saw him coming. I didn't know what to do outside of, bow. And I was sitting, and I got up, of course, and I said, please, Thich, have a chair. So he sat down by this lotus pond, and we just chatted. He says, what do you got there? Oh, I said, I have a manuscript for a book. And he followed up after reading that page. He said, Thich will write the foreword. So I was so fortunate to have his support. So these stories, these encounters that we have with people along the path make a big difference. The third realization is true self. Finding our true self. Now, true self versus false self. We spend the first part of our life trying to become somebody. And we have to do that. But eventually, as our body ages and everything else happens, we have to become nobody. And maybe that's a gift. Because we're not attached to the ego. The true self, ultimately in your vernacular, would be connected with God, or connected with the divine, or connected with the ultimate. I read in Thich Nhat Hanh's journals in 1962, it was a challenging time. War was going on in his home country. He was alone at Princeton University when his roommates left. Do you ever have that feeling when you were alone? I remember being in college and I was an RA and all the students left and I was alone for one day. I thought I was in hell because I didn't know how to be by myself. But all the things that come up when we're alone, you might be alone because you lost a spouse, or you might be alone because of all the things that happen. He was alone at that time, and he said during the nights, he talked about being caught on the false self. He said a battle occurs between the false self and the true self. The mind becomes a battlefield, and the 5 aggregates are strewn around like a debris in a hurricane. The 5 aggregates are body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Long story short, everything that describes the present moment are described in those aggregates. And in the middle of the night, that happens to us. You're having a pain in your body. That pain generates a feeling like, I'll never be able to do this again. It develops a perception that you may have, a perception that is often false. And he asks people to ask the question, are you sure? Are you sure that's real? And then because of all those things, we create a mental formation or a story. And those stories are the ones we keep repeating. And if we keep repeating good stories, that's not so bad. But if we keep repeating the negative stories about ourselves and who we perceive ourselves to be, that's really not so good. So he was dealing with that like any other teacher. And I think that's important to realize. But one thing we know is that true self, when you truly find it, you find true love. Because true self is that connection with God, with the divine, with the ultimate. And it has to begin with yourself. Another realization that Thich had was, I call it true dialogue. True dialogue. Dialogue with others. And I'm suggesting it's a model then, and it's a model for our times. He modeled this with Martin Luther King, Thomas Merton, all the Berrigans, and all the luminaries that people with my gray hair would remember. But these people were very important, and they crossed all religions and philosophies. And he believed that it's really important to talk to people who are different than ourselves. Because unless we do that, and just think how that would be in our society today, if we met and talked to people that we disagree with and try to understand them. To have true dialogue is the way to true peace. This was Gandhi's path. This is the path of all spiritual and other leaders, yet we have lost that. Part of that has continued in Salem through the Oneness Coalition. Maybe some of you have heard of it. There are all the different traditions. Madge was a part of it, and others, where people would present their philosophy and we would listen and try to understand, because that prejudice that comes up for people that are different often is based on some spiritual belief. We've had meetings at the Sikh temple. Well, just a symbol of a Sikh person with a turban and what that meant to people after the September 11th scenario of 20 plus years ago made people wonder, But unless we can understand each other, we will never be able to find that true peace or true love. It has to come with dialogue. Excuse me. Fifth realization is interbeing. Interbeing is a term that is catching on with all of us in the world. You might call it oneness. We're all connected. Every part of us is connected to everything else. This notion of interbeing, and let me just hold something up here. An experiment that Thich Nhat Hanh often uses, he holds up a piece of paper and he asks people to say, what do you see in this piece of paper? Anybody want to try? Calendar. Yes. What else? Questions and answers. What else? Potential. What else? What? Blank space. I did this with the psychologists at the state hospital, and everyone had similar answers to yours. Very analytical. It's a piece of paper with lines, etc., etc. But what if we look deeply at this piece of paper? If we want to practice interbeing, if you want to realize it, you would see the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, the loggers' families. You would see everything if you looked with the eyes of interbeing. So that is a beautiful insight as we move together and try to understand that how can we not be one when we see with those insights. Looking deeply is one of my favorite terms that I use. I grew up Catholic, and I went to church because I had to. I went to 12 years of Catholic school because I had to. Yet, I believe I became a Buddhist because I wanted to learn how to be a better Catholic. I learned the tools of how to look deeply, how to see the oneness, how to see the connection. And now, when I spent the day at the Trappist Abbey yesterday, I can talk with the Catholic monks. I can present at conferences with them because we understand each other. And I understand their beliefs. And we are together on this notion of interbeing. Another realization, the sixth realization, is that of engaged practice. Engaged Buddhism, it's called. Thich Nhat Hanh formulated that idea. And this is a way to realize anything. And I'm sure your homesteader has outreach and is open and does things. And many of you may do it independently. Because when we see the suffering of the world, we can hardly stand it. And if we know we're connected to everybody in the world, we know we have to do something. Part of it is just to be open to it. When I went to India, we learned we went to be in the most remote parts of the world where the Dalits lived. The Dalits used to be called untouchables, but that's not the appropriate word. They're the most impoverished group of Indians. And we would see children, and we would see them begging. And our guide, after we gave everything away, we were hiking 5 miles off the beaten track, and only there would you see this. And it still happens today where people live in remote parts of the world. And after we've given everything away, he said, never turn away. keep your eyes and your heart open. And I remember that. And every time I see a homeless person in Salem, sometimes I might give, sometimes I might not, but I will never turn away. I will always bow to them. I will bow this way. I will keep my eyes open because I need to know what that suffering of the world is like. And then I have an opportunity to make a choice on what do I want to do with that suffering. So we have this idea of engaged practice. Another realization is, we call it Sangha. Now, Sangha is, in Buddhism, there are three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Every religion, every group that has a philosophy of some sort has when I talk in Christian churches, I say we have the Buddha, we have the Dharma, they have the Sangha, and the Sangha. The Buddha would be like God, but the Buddha never was a God. When asked, "Are you a God?" he'd say, "No, I'm awake." He never was considered to be a God. So there is some form of a higher being or a higher teacher that unifies, usually from the past, usually God, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, her, or whatever it is in your vernacular, there is that. Then there is the Dharma in Buddhism. The Dharma are the teachings. In Christianity, the Dharma are the Gospels. I'm sure you have equivalents. You have a philosophy, a teaching set of guidelines that you have as a part of what you believe. And the third is Sangha is a community. And that's what you are. You are a community. Because we can't do this alone. And when asked, the Buddha was asked, what is most important? And he said, are friends important in Buddhism? He said, friends are most important because friends are a community. Friends offer us a mirror. In my recent life, I've been reading a lot about John O'Donohue. Maybe you know of him. And he wrote a book. He was an Irish Catholic priest. He wrote a book called Anamkara. Anamkara means soul friend. And so I bet you have some soul friends in this group. People that you can share with from your heart, that there is nothing hidden, where one can hold up a mirror to the other and they will see something more beautiful than we will ever see in ourselves. So that is the seventh realization. I forgot Ananda's question for the Buddha. Are spiritual friends part of the practice, Buddha? He said, spiritual friends are all the practice. Spiritual friends are all the practice. So the connection is very important. And the eighth realization is simply related to the word continuation. So you are continuing for Reverend J. Smith, for Joe Pinecoffer, and any other teacher that has been in this group. You are the continuation. When Thich Nhat Hanh was asked, who will take your place? He said, the Sangha. And he means it. There's not one teacher. You know, in some forms of Buddhism, it goes from, or in the Dalai Lama, it goes to another Lama. There's a continuation. But this continuation is broader because in that view, it's the whole community, all of us. You are a continuation of Jay and Joe and other teachers. And that is a responsibility that you carry. And what a beautiful gift that Madge is contributing to their lives and to your well-being. And so when I look at it all, I look at those realizations, and I trust that that will be something that you can consider the word realization in itself. It's not important just to know something, but it's more important to practice something. So thank you, Madge, for this opportunity. Thank you, continuing community at the Home Center. Maybe I'll come back someday to talk more about these teachings. But I was honored to be here. I appreciate Madge's invite.
You want to do a 5-minute meditation?
Oh, yes, that's what I was going to do.
I just brought it on at the last minute.
No, it wasn't last minute. It was just, it's great. Well, here's a favorite meditation of Thich Nhat Hanh, and I will just basically say it. It is called a gata. Gata are phrases in Vietnamese. So a phrase is breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Okay? So I will give you 3 or 4 phrases to repeat to yourself. And I do this all the time. I have a mala that I wear that helps me with this. These malas came from Vietnam, where we have a project to support the leper colony and a group of other individuals in a school for the forgotten people. And these malas remind me to come back. Prayer beads. I know this because we would say the rosary every night when I was a child. If you know Catholics, they tend to do this. But now, for me, find it helpful to say little prayers like this, little verses. So I'll invite the bell. Just be comfortable. Eyes open or closed makes no difference. Breathing in, I'm aware that my breath goes deep. Breathing out, I'm aware that my breath goes slow. Deep on the in-breath, slow on the out-breath. And just say that to yourself for a few breaths. Deep, slow. Deep, slow. Breathing in, I'm aware of the present moment. Breathing out, this is a wonderful moment. Present moment, wonderful moment. Saying that to yourself as you breathe in and breathe out. Present moment, wonderful moment. And the last phrase, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. So I'd like to see a smile on your lips. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. And say that for 3 or 4 times. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. And I'll end with one brief song. My voice is not as clear as it should be. But this little song has all the teachings in it. And it goes like this. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid, I am free. I am solid, I am free. In the ultimate I dwell. In the ultimate I dwell. So if you hear those words, they're more than words for me. They're realizations that when I walk, I can arrive in each step. I have arrived. I am home. I used to say this to my wife when I was coming home from the university. The garage door would open. I'd open the door and I'd say, I have arrived. And she'd say, are you home? Sometimes we arrive and we're not really home. Our home is our true self. I have arrived. I am home. I am solid, like a tree, like a deep-rooted pine tree. The winds blow, but you're solid and you're free because you're not caught on the past or you're not caught on the future. And the final part, in the ultimate I dwell. Well, that's what God is. That's what the ultimate means. It's connected to all. Everything is connected. And when we have that connection, what else do we need? We have found our true self in something deeper than ourselves. And we'll always have to be at home first. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
It's way too long. 38 minutes. That was that edit tack on meditation. Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. That was beautiful. All the way through to the song. It was lovely. I could actually hear you and Kathleen singing that together. Did you sing it together?
Well, yeah, we have.
For some, because I know she has a beautiful singing voice.
She has a great voice.
She's beautiful, and when you were singing it, I could hear her singing it with you.
Well, she brings me out of
Yeah.
She brings a true voice to my
You did very well, very, very well. So let's get our offering ready for the home center. And we'll just put this gift between our hands, knowing that this gift is part of the flow of the universe. It supports the home center for us and those are better yet to come. And we see this going out into the universe and coming back to you and blessing you 100 times for all of your wants, needs, and desires that are going to serve your highest and your greatest good. And we're so grateful. Amen. All right. So while the basket's going around, I'm going to invite Dick up to say his closing statements and his closing prayer, and then I'll come back up and do announcements. We'll close our broadcast at the end of his song or prayer.
That on. didn't listen.
We got it.
Forget it. That's what I did. My closing statement this morning is from the book Remembering Who You Truly Are. God's Day 299. God is all there is. You are a part of all there is. The wide open spaces and the deep inner spaces. The love in the eyes of your loved ones and the anger in the heart of your enemy. You are a part of all there is, and it is all yours to love. It is all yours to appreciate and to transform with your Christ light and love. It is waiting for you to transform it. Remember, you are part of all there is, and all there is God. Hold these words in your heart. I am part of all there is, and all there is God. Today I know myself as part of God, part of God's infinite love and part of God's infinite wisdom. From God I have all that I need to live, work, and love today. Thank you, God. And then my closing prayer. God, I know you're listening. You're always listening. Will always hear us, no matter where we are, no matter how lost we feel. And I think I know what you're saying. Let this day before you be one of your unconditional love, love of each other, and love of spirit. Let that feeling spiritually direct your thoughts throughout your week to come. So says God. So I say, perhaps a change of perspective internally from me to us would be good for us to practice. The time we are living is service to others. It's not me, but us collectively. So we love, we forgive, we show compassion. We must do these things because we are God. We as God and Christ, love and light, pray. Amen. To those watching on Facebook and YouTube, this ends our Sunday service from the Home Spiritual Center. Goodbye.